Hello, welcome to my video podcast. My name is Molly Greenbaum, and I am the owner of Stronger Today Physical Therapy. I help older adults become more confident with their mobility so they can continue having fun during their retirement years. I started this podcast to highlight community members who are passionate about helping seniors stay active, independent members of the Rochester community. Today we have our guest, Lauren Goetz, from Everyday Hands. Welcome, Lauren, and thank you for taking the time for meeting with us today.
Hi, Molly. Thanks for having us. Me.
All right, let's start about letting you tell a little bit about yourself and how Everyday Hands started.
Okay. So I had been in the corporate world for my whole adult life. I have an accounting degree, and I did corporate accounting, and also at different times in my career did recruiting. And in 2016, I got laid off. It was my sixth layoff. Um, and I just decided I needed to do something else. I was at my home in Arundecoit, and my elderly neighbors needed some help. And I just started helping them with little everyday tasks, things like helping with the laundry or keeping an eye on the husband because he had dementia so the wife could go get her hair done, cleaning out a refrigerator, just things like that. And I realized if they needed just a little bit of help, that others must also need that help. So I put up little flyers with little rip-off tags all over the place. And that's how it started. So it was extremely organic and grassroots. So I did that. And then in 2017, I took a giant leap of faith and incorporated and got insured and did all the things the right way. There's a lot of people in my industry that do it under the table or as a hobby or help people out, but I didn't want to go that route. And then that's how it's been. So yeah, it's been 6 years.
Excellent. That's a big milestone. Can you tell us a little bit about the services that you provide?
So everybody's different. We help with just some of the small things to keep people safe and independent and healthy in their homes. I often say we're stunt doubles for daughters and daughter-in-laws because they're usually, not always, there are, exceptions, but typically in our society that it's the daughters and daughter-in-laws that help with the little things. So I say we can help do those things so that people can have quality time with their parents because we're helping what's called the sandwich generation. Those are the people that are working full time, have kids, and also have elderly parents. So we take people to appointments. It's one of our biggest services, and then we can call the daughter or the family member and put them on speakerphone at the doctor so they can participate, but without having to actually take time off of their job to do it. We do things like grocery shop. And even if someone's in an independent living or an assisted living, they have those facilities, depending on where you're at, offers a lot of services, but we can help fill in. Our niche is that we do 1 or 2 hour blocks at times. So you don't have to sign up for a big amount of time. So we're not really companion care. We do some companion care, but we're really more task oriented.
Okay, so that is something that makes you a little bit different than some other similar services in the area, correct?
Yeah. As far as I know, we're the only one that offers a 1 hour minimum, no contract. So if somebody needed an emergency tooth extraction, and they needed, to go just that one time, we do that.
Can you tell us a little bit about your team that you have?
I have one part-time person who helps me with some of the admin work, and then I have 4 others out in the field. And our model is a little bit different because the reality is we help everyone, but most of the need is for seniors. And seniors typically don't want to see you before 9 or 10 or after 4 o'clock. So I have a very short window of time. So my model is I have 4 people. This is a second career. They're retired or looking for part-time work. So they do it for the joy of the job, not for a paycheck. and I assign each client one of my assistants, so there's a continuity of care and they can build a relationship. People really like that. And so it's just, if someone called, we kind of assess their needs and I match them up with one of the assistants that would be a good fit.
Excellent. I think that having consistency and reliability with help is really important for lots of our seniors.
Yes, and like last week when we had, the ice storm and we canceled, um, two of them were like, "Oh, I'm not going to see you today," to my teammates. Like it becomes really part of their life.
Yes, I'm sure that they appreciate the social interaction and the relationships as
That's a
well.
big piece of it. Yes.
Can you tell us about some more odd tasks that you've been asked to do?
Yes. Pretty much we do almost anything. We don't do any sort of hands-on, so no help with hygiene, bathing, or dressing, and we don't do meds administration. But otherwise, we do lots of things, and that could be take someone's pet to an appointment. Sadly, we've had to do it a couple of times at the end stage of life for a pet.
Mm.
Um, Probably the craziest thing I've done was last year. One of the hospitals called and they had an elderly couple, both suffering from dementia, that was being moved to a memory care unit closer to their daughter, which was outside of Pittsburgh,
Oh,
Pennsylvania.
wow.
And so we were hired to accompany them. They went by medical transport, the two of
Mhm.
them. And I was part to help supervise and make sure they got there safely. Uh, and that was a trip. That was, they both realized about 45 minutes in that they weren't going home. And then they were convinced that we kidnapped them, which
Oh,
technically
no.
we kind of did.
Hmm.
But it was for their own safety. And then when we got there, it was almost 6 hours. They did not fall asleep at all, and they were medicated. They were supposed to fall asleep. They never fell asleep. Um, we got there, and then they wouldn't get out of the vehicle. They wanted to go back to Rochester. So it was like a whole thing. But they did. They got where they needed to be. This way, they're closer to their daughter. But it was a day. It was a long day,
It
and
sounds like a special experience that is
it really,
unforgettable.
and it was sad. A lot of what we do is sad because these were people that were professors and highly educated, and just to I didn't know them at that stage in their life, but to see people um, where sometimes the end brings them, it's heartbreaking. It's
Yes,
heartbreaking.
definitely is very difficult to watch some people age and the struggles that they go through.
And it's hard on the family.
Hmm. Certainly. All right, so that was maybe not the happiest story. Can you tell us one of your favorite experiences with Everyday Hands?
Yes, I was invited to accompany Howard. Howard was about 85 years old, and his grandsons were getting married. His grandson was getting married.
Oh.
So I was tasked with picking Howard up from his assisted living. He was in a wheelchair, but I can put a wheelchair in my vehicle.
Mhm.
He was all dressed up for a wedding, and I was dressed up for a wedding. Drove to the venue, which was down in the Finger Lakes, and he was able to be part of the ceremony. He'd be part of the pictures, and then the family. He was so happy to be there, and they were so happy to have him, but they didn't have to worry about him. They didn't have to like somebody get Howard his, grandpa his dinner or push him in his wheelchair. So I was like really in the background of that. But it was, I mean, he just was glowing and everybody was so happy to see him. And the fact that he could be part of their pictures and be part of that special day was really, it was really, really fun. I would love to do more of those.
You can start coordinating with wedding planners to try to.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's and they've actually it's not the same, but same but different is I've actually even accompanied people to funerals for the same reason,
Mm,
so that they can be part of with their family and the family can have them participate or be part of it without having the added stress of worrying about them. So I like that stuff. That is, to me, the nuts and bolts and makes the things that really stick out and people remember.
Excellent. So, what is one piece of advice that you would give your potential customers?
To be proactive and not reactive, too, because no one plans on falling and breaking a hip. You know this with the work you do.
Exactly.
Or it's hard to age. I get that. I probably am going to be a terrible old person because I'm independent and stubborn. But I think it's really important for people to meet my team, to know what we do, so that if something comes up, they already have a resource and they don't have to, they're not screwing around, they're not making a bunch of phone calls only to be told we don't do that, or they have, a lot of agencies have high minimums, 4 hours, 4 times a week is kind of the average here in Rochester. So if you my goal is for as many people in the area to know that we are here for when the need does arrive. So be proactive, know the resources before it's an emergency situation.
Exactly. Some of the worst times to make a big life decision is when you're in the middle of a crisis.
It really is. And then you're stuck. And then people maybe end up with not the ideal solution because it was the only solution that presented itself at the time. And they didn't know that there were even other options. That's my biggest challenge with my business is people don't know I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to a couple of fun questions to give listeners a chance to learn a little more about you. What is something that you want to learn how to do that you haven't done yet?
Well, I have two things. I love to be crafty and artistic, so I'd like to start learning how to do stained glass.
Oh,
Is one of things, and the other thing that I just signed up for an information class is rowing. Like crew.
yeah,
And,
yes.
and I have really strong core body strength.
Mm-hmm.
So that I had always thought would be a good exercise and a good activity for me. And I was at a doctor office last week and I saw something for a rowing organization for people that are survivors of cancer. And I'm actually a breast cancer survivor. It'll be 8 years this year. So I signed up to learn how to row.
Oh, that sounds exciting. I'm always looking for more hobbies that don't require as much hand-eye coordination. So maybe that's something I'll add to my bucket list as well.
Yeah.
All right. This is kind of a funny question, but what is your second favorite color?
Green.
Green.
Green. Blue is my first.
Oh, very nice.
Yes.
Okay, and then lastly, if you had to entertain a famous person for a day, where would you take them in the Rochester area?
So that's a hard question because I think there's so many awesome things to do. Um, Probably my favorite place is the Lamberton Conservatory at Highland Park.
Oh,
Uh,
I love it there too.
it's so tranquil, and during the winter, it's warm. My husband and I actually got married there. Uh,
Really?
yeah, so I really, it just a calmness comes over me when I'm there. And then another place that I think is so cool that is the George Eastman House.
Oh, yes. Have you ever been there in the winter when there's the gingerbread houses?
I haven't, but I want to go in the next couple of weeks because they have all the tulips.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so those are two things I really think are fun and unique to Rochester.
Yes, those are good spots. All right, Lauren, before we wrap up, can you tell the listeners what the best way is to get in touch with you?
Sure. You can text or call at 585-270-0710. You can email us at info@everydayhandshelp.com, or you can go on our website at everydayhandshelp.com. And I'm also on Facebook at
All right.
Everyday Hands.
I will make sure to add your number and the links below when I post this.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you, Lauren, for taking the time talking with us to tell you a little bit more about yourself and the work that Everyday Hands does. And I keep up the great work in the community.
Thank you so much, Molly. I really appreciate you reaching out and thinking to have me on the podcast.
Bye.
Bye bye.